Are you a production or a consumption prepper? What mindset do you have? Are you just trying to escape and find your little hidey hole where you can just a safe place to lay your head and then get outside resources and consume? Or are you going to actually produce? Let's talk about it.
Every breath you take, every move you make, every bond you break, every step you take, I'll be watching you.
So over the holidays, I found myself consuming some content about small cabin building and some even Airbnbs, little cabins, and hashtag van life people, and was watching interviews by people living in their vans and things. And these people are kind of displaced, but they don't like the high cost of living. I just want to move out into the woods, sell all my shit, move out into the woods and live free, right? Or the van life people, like, I'm sick of this high real estate, high living costs. I'm going to deck out a van and live in it, or even a minivan or a camper or something. Well, I mean, in Saskatchewan, it can get very, very cold, and it can be very, very dangerous. I was watching some van life people in Calgary. You know, it's dangerous, minus 48 Celsius, which is minus 50 something Fahrenheit. But for the majority of the year, it's okay. But I would say for every, I don't know the ratio, for every 100 consumption preppers, there's maybe one production prepper. Maybe even more. Maybe it's 500 to 1 or 1,000 to 1. So most preppers, you know, I need to consume this and set up a place where I can consume. Like, for example, in general society, your house is a liability to you and an asset to the municipality that collects property tax and an asset to the bank. Unless that piece of real estate you have rental income, then it's consumption. It's a liability. So most people think that their house is an asset, but it's a liability. Most people's houses are for consuming. So safe, warm place to sleep, place to cook finished meals from outside resource food, right? You can cook a meal. A place to sit at the table, hang out with your kids, watch their TV shows. Maybe if you have a big house, you have a pool table or something, or a drum set. That's all kind of consumption type stuff. Now, my mindset is very little about consuming. All of my time, resources, energy, and thoughts go to producing. Okay, so what if something bad happens in the world? It's great that you're out in a little cabin in the woods, surviving, but you know, you get maybe to the production stage, you get a few chickens and then a garden. But the van life people I was watching and really thinking about it, they can't produce anything. They're kind of nomad travelers, even if they wanted to produce something. And a lot of these people were smart. They spoke well. They're just displaced by the system and resort to living in their van to find some freedom, which is awesome. I'm jealous of the van life people. I was watching some and I'm like, oh man, that sounds so simple and nice. But then I thought, oh man, I'd be bored. I can't sit in one place for 2 seconds, let alone, you know, a winter in your van or something. I have to do something. I have to build, whatever. These van life people, it's like Walmart parking lots, a side street where they get left alone, or they have to move around to not get tickets and things and not get towed away, and they don't really have a place. And so nowhere to set up a chicken coop, nowhere to start a garden unless maybe a community garden or something. But they go around and travel or just stay put consuming, just trying to live, right? So if they want coffee, they go to the grocery store, get coffee, or go through a drive-through. If they want any sort of food, a lot of fast food or easy, quick, ready, you know, expensive, not very good quality meals maybe, and then cook what they can, like maybe canned soups because they just have to heat it up or whatever, or they every day they go buy sandwich buns and deli meat and make themselves a sandwich in their van or something. But all consumption should just keep them alive. My brain goes from it advances out. I'm just a small issue with preparedness. How easy would it be for me, just a single dude with no wife and kids and things, or animals and things, to just live? Oh man, I with an axe and a hammer, I'm pretty sure I could go out in the woods and make one heck of a nice dwelling and maybe live happily and free. But my mind switched, so I have a family to look after and things like that. I built myself a small house. It's not a tiny house on wheels or a van or a camper, but it's a small house in relation to other houses out there. So even people's little cookie cutter townhouses that they pay $400 to $1 million for, our house is smaller than that, but it's also got 100-year roof and well insulated, and it doesn't really cost anything as well. I didn't want to hook up to city water. I wanted my self-reliance to produce water, so you drill a well and then have a water softener treatment plant and then do tests and things, and I produce my own water. I'm responsible for my own water. Electricity, haven't got into that. Full solar panel system or something, or alternative energy. I'm still grid tied, which kind of bugs me, but you try to reduce your consumption there. And actually, for my production mindset, so what I picture in the future for out here is walk-in freezer and another walk-in cooler, more permanent. Sell the portable one that I made, or the two portable ones I made, and make a more permanent one for the local production that I'm doing. So that takes a lot of energy. So maybe being grid tied is okay, and then I can supplement or change some things. Maybe the small consumption house has off-grid system or something, and then all of the production can be grid tied in the system, possibly. But so to give you an idea how much my brain is production over consumption, in my greenhouse I could fit 2 of my houses. In my shop I could fit 4 of my houses. In my barn I could fit 3 of my houses. In my pond behind me I could bury 10 of my houses, because the house is the consumption and everything else is production. So big barn, livestock, beef, goat, pork, eggs, milk, all the products that you can make from dairy. The greenhouse is fresh fruits and vegetables year-round, and herbs and natural medicines and things, and then we make tinctures, and the pond is for, well, it's for enjoyment too, but that's a water source for outside gardens and irrigation, and then also the fish production that's going to be in that. And my pastures behind me are solely for production. I spent so much time on fencing and things. I have baling equipment and skid steers and tractors, and everything is not for consumption. It's about production. Production can be doing things that you consume. So if you have a garden or a little chicken coop that's just for you to eat eggs and a few fresh vegetables or potatoes or something, that's production for your consumption. It's not necessarily to sell, but you have to make what you're going to consume, right? So I plant trees for future firewood, for heat, things like that. Now, the people that want to escape and build a cabin in the woods, or the van life people especially, I'm looking at them, they have a lot of potential. Like, it's probably boring after a while sitting in your little van to try to escape. But me with the production mentality, just hear me out on some thoughts. Because of what I'm doing, and I recognize the value of community building, but I don't really want employees, because it's a lot of paperwork, filings, CPPs, and all these fees to have employees. And it's a big pain in the butt. And there's not a lot of money. You're not getting rich doing homesteading stuff, right? So it takes a special type of person to keep at it, knowing that in kind of the world we are today, like greenhouse and bananas, like, am I getting rich doing bananas in the greenhouse when you can still go to the grocery store and buy your typical Cavendish bananas for 77 cents a pound, right? But so it takes a special mindset to continue on like you're going to be able to produce in the future. Now, when things get bad, so USA just hit $34 trillion in debt. Congratulations. I remember when I think it was about when I bought the land, it hit 20 trillion and it was a big deal or something, but it's nuts. So maybe hyperinflation, if not just high inflation. Lower quality of life, lower quality food, even food availability. The inevitable things, let alone something catastrophic like, who knows, like war, solar flare, Yellowstone volcano blowing up. I don't even worry about that stuff. I'm a rational person. The inevitable things. So more rules, regulations, fees, less freedoms. That's always the worst, taking your freedoms away. But what I'm setting up anyway, the van life people that are smart people, want to be left alone, always kind of having to move around, having to get away. Oh, you have to move your camper, you have to move your van now. They can never set up. What if someone was to offer them like a place to set up that had resources? It has very good mineral-rich water that's non-fluoridated from a well. It's got water infrastructure, sewage infrastructure. Like instead of them defecating in a bag or a composting toilet or something, you have actually that infrastructure. Instead of having to buy a crummy little diesel heater or propane heater and go get propane or diesel once a week or something, you have more efficient, better natural gas you can hook up as infrastructure, or a place to store wood or something. Electricity, you could set up like a bigger solar panel array when you have the space and tie into that and offer someone electricity and a safe place that they're not always running away. And then what can you do with that? This person that's living around van life anyways or wants to escape, doesn't want to be part of the system and things. What if instead of compensation for a little bit of farm help once in a while, you offered them accommodations? So whether that's someone brings their consumption thing, like their little living thing, or I was thinking Airbnb cabins, short-term rentals, but if the economy goes really south in the future, I have to have a backup plan. So lots of these Airbnbs collapse, whether it's the BC government smacking down on Airbnb and wrecking that entire short-term rental system. So people set up entire businesses and lives and things for short-term high-end rentals. And then the government, of course, comes and says, oh, we can't do that anymore because there's a housing shortage, so it has to be long-term rentals or whatever the hell they did. But if I did some Airbnb cabins, instead of somebody paying to consume in that thing, what if you had some cabins and you let somebody, the right person, you have to really vet them, come and live for free. Everything's included. Absolutely everything in your little cabin. And it comes with absolute freedom that you're not going to be attacked by the system, have to move your van, have to worry about if you build a little cabin in a provincial forest and somebody finds you, they'll literally kick you out and burn it down for you. In poor countries or third world countries, people can live in huts. They can have multiple huts on their property, things, permanent dwellings, set up like a family compound. They can do that. But the van life people, you're not allowed to buy a piece of land. You could buy an acre or 10 acres outright. And if you want to try to live free, you're not allowed to put your camper out, Canada-wide. You're not allowed to live on your land. You have to have an extortable residence, right? So I built an extortable small house that allows me to be out here, and then it opens up my freedoms for, then I could have a camper or a helper living in a camper on wheels, right? Things like that. You give these people an opportunity, a better life, a better place to be, better living accommodations, that's safer for them. It's more free. It's more protection for both them and me, making a community having bodies. And in return, they can help. We have a goat to milk, a cow to milk, eggs to pick. Today we're going to make tinctures. Today we're going to put some metal siding on this building. Today we're going to net out the fish out of the pond. Today we're going to bale up some hay. It's pretty simple, right? And I realize nobody has I can't expect the same work ethic from myself, and no entrepreneur can, out of help that they get, but it can be a pretty easy system, especially if I don't have a massive hourly rate or something that I have to pay someone. It's just, here's some freedom for you that's better than what you had before. And out of that, guess what you get too? Fresh eggs, non-poisonous food, fresh beef, fresh milk, dairy, fresh vegetables, fresh fruit, because it's all production what I'm doing. But the problem is, my wife and I are only two people, and it gets to the point where it's way too much, right? So to have a helper, so I'm building a barn, and that barn's going to be set up with all the infrastructure, with not a lot of ongoing costs. The cost that it takes is a few hours in chores every day once it's full operation. So picking eggs, making sure everyone has food and water, milking twice a day or whatever. What if I get into meat birds and, once a year or a few times a year, you do hundreds of birds, maybe 1,000 birds. I have to set up a system, and I collect equipment, production equipment. That's what I spend my money on. I'm not collecting consumption equipment. I'm collecting production equipment. Propane scalding tank, chicken plucker, chicken hangers, chicken kill cones, things like that. But the problem is a set of hands, because it's just too much for me. So because of the production mentality, community building as well, you can free people that just want to consume, but they'd still, like to do easy things and something to do. You can offer them a better life than just consuming and, van lifing around and having to travel. So are you a consumption, or do you have a production mindset? Because in reality, in nature, you can't consume until something is produced, right? We live in these times where everybody's a consumer, and just a few entities now make the production that with technology and buildings and, corporate structures and things, that just a few humans can produce a lot of stuff. But I think it's going back to the times of small local homesteads and things, and I think you actually literally need to do that for the future, for what's coming. So if it's just super high inflation, so that it costs a lot for infrastructure and equipment and to make a system, and then for ongoing cost, it's pretty much just human labor, right? That's a big win against inflation. So if I was to bring in somebody displaced that has the right mentality, that's on the same page as things, living kind of crummily anyways, and you offer them something big time better, that's a start of a community without any paperwork, without any currency changing hands, because every time currency changes hands, the government's got their handout, right? So no, I don't have any employees, even though maybe you have two guys that help sometimes, right? This is almost, I did a whole community building video, but a political system, so put all of your, so if you're a socialist, then put that aside. If you're a Democrat, put that aside. If you're a conservative, put all this aside. Socialism is great on a small scale. Communism is even great on a nuclear household and maybe slightly bigger, small community scale. It can work, and it's a natural system, right? That does not work on a larger system. And then on the right, you have the capitalists and even libertarians. That's what I am, a libertarian, that I believe in the non-aggression principle, and stealing is bad. So when I teach my boys about stealing, I gave them 2 fundamental rules at age 4. Do not steal, and do whatever the heck you want as long as it doesn't harm anybody else. Those are the 2 fundamental rules of life. In the parasitic system that you're under, that you have to use their currency for things and have to use their paper, I think that might be a loophole around it. So I don't have any employees. No, I don't hire anybody. And somebody may or may not live in a van, right? And if it's on wheels and somebody bugs you, it's like, well, move your van, go on a little road trip for today, and then we'll see you back tonight or something. Like, who knows what you have to do to make something better. And that's almost like socialism, right? Like somebody working not for monetary compensation, but for compensation of freedom, safety, better consumption, a better place to live, better consumption of food. They're getting paid food and things. It kind of sounds like a 360 win. I have to work it out in my brain a little more, but I never wanted to be a leader or anything or whatever. I just want freedom, but then the production mentality, maybe that means that I have to have a certain system and engage in capitalism with the outside system, right? I produce, sell a few things to buy the things that I can't produce. And then on your internal community, you can have some help that's compensated with a better quality of life, but not currency. So all the consumption van life people, I think that probably sounds pretty darn good. And it's not like I'm a slave master, slave driver, like, psh, get to work. Like, you've got to work 16 hours a day to do that. It's like, no, just whatever. Let's say one guy has a task of livestock chores, that's maybe 2 hours a day, and then maybe we'll give him another chore of stoking a wood boiler or some firewood processing. So maybe work 4 hours a day, kind of every day. You have a certain set of chores, and then do whatever the heck you want the rest of the day. If you want those chores, you could do them in 2 hours, or you could spend all day putzing away, or do them whenever you want. It's pretty lenient, right? It's not like I have a fixed, I'm paying you per hour, you have to produce this much per hour. It's, here's a good quality of life and some chores. Maybe another one is video editing for YouTube. Maybe there's a person out there that's super good with computers and editing, but is one of those van life people or stuck in the system with no way out. Maybe they live in a crummy apartment with a roommate for way too much money, and you offer them, hey, a better place to live. And in return, we'll edit a video every other day with your skills. So here's a computer, here's the everything, and no monetary compensation, just a better quality of life, if that makes sense. So just some things that I'm working through in my brain of how to advance moving forward with production. So many things that I consume, I would like to be able to produce. Here, one more note about production mindset. So let's say the ratio is 100 to 1. Consumption, people just worried about living and then being able to buy their groceries and buy the propane and buy the things they need, or buy their firewood, buy their garden produce, buy their meat, buy their sandwich, buy their everything. If there's 100 of those and one with a production mentality, if it gets worse moving forward, then you got a whole bunch of customers, consumers, and you're the producer. So I picture in the future possibly having a strong community where other local people that aren't part of my internal community know that what I do, what I have, what I produce, the quality that it is, the price that it is, and hopefully they produce something and we can trade with one another and make a little microeconomy local system, but also be a trading post of sorts. Like if you think things are going to get bad enough that it's total societal collapse without a rule of law or something, or even too much rule of law, like way too much government, even more than now, the system kind of works for that. People say, well, I wouldn't show anybody what I have for preps and things. And I'm like, wait a minute. So everybody's thinking that, and then reality sets in. I'm like, hey, let me drop you a pin of where my location is, and you know where you can get all of your food, almost all your food groups. That's what I have pictured in the future, right? It's like, what do you need? Potatoes, milk, tinctures, like, oh yeah, fresh vegetables in the winter or whatever. Here, let me drop you a pin. Yeah, you're hungry or you're really unhealthy because whatever food that you're eating or something, and yeah, here's the pin. But maybe it's we don't bring a debit card, don't bring a credit card, don't bring currency whatsoever. You better bring something of value, possibly in the future as well. So, but that's kind of, I try to hone back to realism that it's just like tyranny, rules, licenses, hard to have an employee, hard to do anything, and try to figure out a way to make other people's lives better and my life better and the world better and everything better under that system. But it's very possible that things get very, very bad, possibly inevitable at this point. So, but 34 trillion in debt in the United States. Canada's just money printing away. The printer never stops. I think they just gave $5.9 billion to the Philippines for climate change. So again, whether they had to steal that money from someone in the form of a taxation, or they stole it from all the people in the form of inflation, which is taxation, why are things so expensive in Canada? Right? There's going to be a lot more van life people in the future. So if you're to the point or have a farm or have the production mentality where you can set something up that can accommodate the van life people, whether that's van life people sick of eating garbage food and they just want to buy some produce from you, I'd like to buy some eggs. Or you find the right van life person that's like, life sucks, van life in the city, I'm eating like shit, it's dangerous if my heater quits and stuff, and you give them protection and everything. I don't know, it just works. Food for thought. Let me know what you thought of that rant, and if you have any ideas, let me know. I'm just discussing something. So thanks, we'll see you next time.
Every breath you take, every move you make, every bond you break, every step you take, I'll be watching you every single day, every word you say, every game you play, every night you stay, I'll be watching you. Oh, can't you see that you belong to me? How my poor heart aches with every step you take, every move you make, every vow you break, every smile you fake, every claim you stake, I'll be watching you.